After leaving the magical Kitch-iti-kipi, we are headed back to Lake Michigan's northern shore in Manistique. We will see the lake's far northern point in Naubinway and of course cannot leave the Upper Peninsula without stuffing ourselves with pasties. We cross the beautiful Cut River Bridge before getting views of the grand Mackinac Bridge from the north side of the Straights of Mackinac. Full of joy from our experience at Kitch-iti-kipi in the last episode, we are back on the road south to rejoin the Lake Michigan Circle Tour on US Highway 2 and head towards Manistique. This city of almost 3,000 people has been nicknamed the Emerald City because of its proximity to Kitch-iti-kipi, which flows into Indian Lake and eventually the Manistique River. Coming from the west, you cross this river at its mouth as it dumps into Lake Michigan just before town. Manistique has a New Deal post office that has to be checked out, and a mural inside depicting the Upper Peninsula's logging industry. After Manistique, US Highway 2 and the Lake Michigan Circle Tour travel through the Upper Peninsula a bit away from the lake. You can take various smaller roads down to the coast to see the Sul Schwa Point Lighthouse or the Scott Point Park, but there is no continuous lakeside route. Instead, the route travels through the small communities of Gulliver, Gould City, and Engadine, coming back to the lake just before reaching Naubinway. If you cannot already tell from previous episodes, I like to stop and enjoy unique geographies during road trips. For this reason, the marker denoting the northernmost point of Lake Michigan in Naubinway is a must. The sign down on the ground reads that Naubinway comes from the Ojibwa word for place of echoes, but this might be dispelled by elders as something made up for tourism. The true origin means something more along the lines of sits and keeps watch, or similarly, to gaze in wonderment. What cannot be contested is the geography. About 2.5 kilometers to the north and east, the undeniable point where Lake Michigan has its farthest north waters hits the shore just next to US Highway 2. Just south of this point, you can barely see the slim pillar that is the Naubinway Island Lighthouse, which lives on the small namesake island a bit over a kilometer offshore. Back in town, we are stopping into Hiawatha Pasties to pick up what is now a cultural icon of the Upper Peninsula. The town of Calumet has an annual festival celebrating the baked pastry, which became popular in nearby mines just like it had in its origin of Cornwall. The self-contained food is a convenient bundle of calories for a full day's work. We choose the small rest area just east of town to enjoy our pasties and cannot help but take in more views of the lake. And when a scenic viewpoint a little further down US Highway 2 announces itself, well, we cannot resist that either. After these stops, we come to a place I have been looking forward to all day. It may not seem like much when you are right on top, but the Cut River Bridge is a beautiful piece of road that gracefully spans over the river far below. Because there is quite a steep incline from Lake Michigan to the elevation of the bridge, the setting is about as dramatic as can be. Add in the autumn colors, and this place is almost unreal. We run a brief detour off the Circle Tour to Michigan Highway 123 and the town of Moran, for you know what, and are quickly back to the lake afterwards. Our first views of the Grand Mackinac Bridge come from another of US Highway 2's scenic roadside stops. Envisioned since the 1880s but not opened until 1957, the bridge changed travel in Michigan forever. Before its construction, ferry services took people and their vehicles across the Straights of Mackinac, but nowadays it only takes a few minutes and $4 for a two-axle car to get across. Despite technically being on the shores of Lake Huron, St. Ignace seems like a natural stop while taking the circle tour of Lake Michigan. At one time, the pronunciation of Michigan's second oldest settler-founded city was probably a much more flowing French, but nowadays it becomes another curiosity of the United States town nomenclatures. We are here to see the Museum of Ojibwa Culture, which lives in the 188-year-old St. Ignace Mission Chapel. The building is now on the National Register of Historic Places, but like most missions on Turtle Island, this is a place full of dark history. The museum is closed for the season, but the grounds around the building have a lot of interesting information, an explanation of Ojibwa clan structures, and even a working Huron longhouse. Some people seem to be gathering after just lighting a fire, so I do not want to intrude and do not get the chance to peek further inside. Ojibwe and other Anishinaabe peoples were usually more transitory and lived in dwellings they could move, unlike their Huron and other Haudenosaunee neighbors, who built structures like this and much longer ones. Our journey in this episode will conclude halfway over the Mackinac Bridge, crossing the meeting point of Lake Michigan and Lake Huron, directly above the Straights of Mackinac. Despite having a border with Wisconsin of over 300 kilometers, this bridge is the Upper Peninsula's only link with the rest of its own state. Stay tuned for episode 6 in a couple weeks when we reach Mackinac City, enjoy some fried fish, try to avoid saltwater taffy, and continue the journey along the Lake Michigan Circle Tour.